To be humble, to be kind, it is a giving of the peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. And to be bold, to be brave, it is the thinking that the heart can still be saved. And the darkness can come quick, the danger's in the anger and in the hanging on to it. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. And tell me what it is that you see, a world that's full of endless possibilities. And heroes don't look like they used to, they look like you do.
Tiger, but it's not the scary tiger, it's the playful tiger, the tiger chasing its tail. This is a partially improvised piece, and Daniel, would you wave? Daniel, would you wave? Daniel is going to be doing like magician things with his hands, which will change the pace and change the color of the music. Gamelan is a little hard for some of us to sort of get into. If you just lean back and let it wash over you, you will enjoy it, I think. Here's the tiger chasing its tail.
Good morning. It is my great delight to welcome you this morning to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. My name is Aya Simpson Newberry, and I have been in and around these parts for almost 40 years, I was thinking the other day. So I'm remarkably well preserved for that tenure. This morning we continue our theme of Behind the Mask, the worship theme that you have been exploring for the past month or so. I look forward to going behind my own mask a little with you this morning. There is a book in the back. If you came here this morning with any joys that are lifting your feet into the air, or sorrows that made it hard to get out of bed, or all the things in between, which are more common, please feel free to write them in the book, and we will hold them during our time of prayer this morning. It is so good to be with you this morning. Thank you so much for braving the drizzle and the gray, for coming out into this cold sanctuary made warm only by our love, but that love is enough to make it quite toasty. Come, let us worship together. I think we're going to sing.
I'm Jason, and I'll be your worship associate today. And Reverend Aya Simpson Newberry has introduced herself. She is a lifelong participant in our community, raised here and ordained on this very chapel. She lives with her partner and son in Berkeley for now. As we light our chalice to begin our service, we remind ourselves that our church occupies land in Huchien, the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. May we have the humility and courage to do our part to restore what has been broken and take the wisdom to live in new solidarity with indigenous communities and the earth. As we kindle our chalice, let us use these words by Jay Wolin. Are we people of holding on or letting go? Holding on to rigid ideas, letting go and opening our minds and our hearts to something new? Holding on to certainty about how things should be, or letting go and living with the uncertainty of new ways of being in the world? With this flame, it symbolizes our religion. Let it be a symbol of burning up the ties that hold us back from being our true selves. Let it be a symbol of lighting a new way for us into a better tomorrow. And let it be a symbol of letting go. Because holding on too long and too tightly is never good for the soul. Would you now join me in saying our covenant? Love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose. To give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things we covenant with one another.
For your beauty on the in the country, waves are hugging the shore. All the senses from Maine to Texas have never known such love before. See them billing and cooing like the birdies above. Each girl and boy alike, sharing joy alike, feels a passion, oh, soon be national. Love is sweet in the country. There never was so much love. Walked right in and drove the shadows away. Walked right in and brought my sunniest day. Look and I have found a world completely new. When love walked in with
I would like to invite the young at heart, the young of knee who can sit and get back up, or anyone who wants to yell at each other in church this morning. We're going to do a little hollering to come up and join me for a story. Oh, excellent. We have a professional hollerer. It's a hard word to say. Okay, guys, so I want to tell you a story about a village, a smallish village, a small enough village that everyone sort of knew everyone else. Kind of like this church. Everyone basically knows most people here. And one morning, one maybe kind of gray morning like this one, God appeared and walked down the main street of the village. Maybe we could imagine that the main street looked sort of like the aisle between the two sides of this sanctuary. And God walked down the main street and they looked fabulous. They were wearing some really excellent shoes. If you were God and were picking shoes, what kind of shoes might you select? Any ideas? What do we got? Some very comfortable, practical. You can feel the earth near you. Does anyone else have an idea of what kind of shoe you might want to wear if you were God? What? Oh, yeah?
Fancy shoes.
Fancy shoes. Yeah.
Shoes of gold and silver.
Shoes of gold and silver. You're speaking my language, Stephanie Ann. Shoes of gold and silver. God was wearing fabulous shoes and gorgeous robes and a most magnificent hat. And they walked down the center of the village and then disappeared. That's it. They didn't stop to say hi. They weren't like given instructions or writing on tablets, just taking a stroll, wearing some nice shoes and a great hat. And the villagers afterwards, this was the main thing that they had to talk about that day. If God walked through, do you think we would talk about anything other than God walking through the middle of the church? Yeah, I think that would be our primary topic of conversation. And one of the people was, God had such great shoes and such great robes and such a magnificent red hat. And I think the person who said that God had a magnificent red hat was sitting on this side of the village. So we are team red hat. Because as soon as someone said, what a beautiful red hat, someone over here said, no. God wasn't wearing a red hat. God was wearing a beautiful blue hat. And then this person said, no. I know what red looks like. They were wearing a red hat. And then this person said, excuse me, are you suggesting I don't know my colors? It was a blue hat. And then they started just like everyone clamoring, red hat, blue hat. And so this is where I need a little bit of help because I can only holler so much. So I need team red, all of you. Team blue, all of you, I want you to imagine deeply, this is God we're talking about. Who knows what kind of symbols they are sending us by the color of their hat? We care deeply. Oh, we do not touch our microphone, but we care deeply. So, do I have some brave soul who's willing to start? Red, red, blue, 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 red. And it went on and on and on. And eventually, it became too freaking loud. Someone over here knows the answer. Hold it to yourself. They don't know yet, but I'm hearing someone say it's so obvious. So wait, and you will have your time. But most of the people didn't see it was so obvious. They were so mad, and also yelling that much got tiresome. So they built a wall down the middle of town. We had Team God wears a red hat, Team God wears a blue hat, and they never talked to each other again except to occasionally holler something insulting about their ability to tell colors. And then, one day, God came back. And this was their moment. God, were you wearing a red hat or a blue hat? Now, does anyone up here have an idea of what God answered? See, purple is an excellent, because it could go either way. Any other suggestions? Not red or blue at all. You people have been fighting over something absolutely untrue. Any other ideas? Yes? Gold. Awesome. That would be beautiful. Oh. I don't know what you just said. Say it again.
Diffraction gradient.
Oh, excellent. Diffraction gradient. Any other? Yes? Very clever. What about you? Silver. See, the thing is, any of those could be the answer, because often when we fight, there's no actual right answer. But when I first heard this story, I did hear it, red on one side, blue on the other. God walked through, said, that day I was wearing my hat that was red on one side and blue on the other. Or maybe God said, that day I was wearing my hat that was gold or silver or purple, so you could see either way. And God kept walking. And people were like, oh, we've been fighting about this for quite some time. So my question is, do you think that they all listened and were like, well, this is really silly? Or do you think they pretended that God hadn't come by and answered and kept fussing about red and blue? What do we think? Fussing about red and blue. That is my suspicion, that they kept fussing about red and blue, but I like to hope that eventually they accepted that to fuss about the color of someone's hat probably isn't a good way to decide where the walls should go in our town. And I also like to think that poor God didn't get a complex.
What does that mean?
A complex is when you worry about what someone is going to think about you. A complex is when you worry too much about something. And if I knew that people were building walls based on what color my hat was, it might be hard to choose a hat. In the morning, it might be hard to figure out what I wanted to wear if I thought people were paying that much attention. What do you think? Might that be difficult? Yeah. So, in general, maybe less focus on hat color. I'm going to let you guys keep debating what would happen with red and blue hats in your classes this morning, and then I'm going to tell these people some more about what I think happened with the hat, and they can report back later. Yeah? Off we go. Oh, geez, stop touching that.
Children go off to their classes, please rise as you're willing and able and sing, "Guide My Feet."
2014 film Troy opens with two opposing armies facing off. The respective kings, Agamemnon of Greece and King Triopas of Thessaly, negotiate a deal to avoid mutual slaughter. Their dispute would be resolved by pitting each of their best fighters against one another. The victorious hero would carry the triumph for the entire battle, and the matter between the two kingdoms would be settled. King Triopas calls forth with great confidence his hero, Boadrius. A muscled mountain of a man bursts out from his adoring fellow troops into the no man's land separating the two armies. Boadrius is a real beast, and he rouses the Thessian army by howling fiercely and pumping his spear and shield into the air. Achilles is Agamemnon's hero. Unlike the battle-ready and raging Boadrius, Achilles isn't with his army at all. King Agamemnon must send a boy to retrieve him from his post-coital slumber. When Achilles eventually arrives on horseback, he dismounts, exchanges some tense words with the king, and then enters the battle zone. Achilles' visage evolves from disdain for King Agamemnon to a steely focus on his combatant. He says not a word. An intense but very brief encounter follows where Achilles easily dispatches the raging Boadrius with a stunning maneuver and a single thrust of his sword. Now, setting aside the mythological element of Homer's demigod Achilles, if we were to imagine that such an event transpired between two mortal men, it would not be unreasonable to assume that in facing the real possibility of violent death, they would also be aware of the significant consequences that their defeat would result in for their king, their military compatriots, their countrymen, their community, and their families. It would be equally safe to assume that under such an existential threat, which put their lives on the line, as well as the health, happiness, and well-being of everyone they knew, respected, and loved, that both men would feel tremendous fear. Now, in our story, we have two very different reactions to fear: the bravado of Boadrius and the courage of Achilles. Both men face the same dreadful challenge: mortal combat. What distinguishes their significantly different handling of that fear can be attributed to the disparity of competency and skill between the two men. While demonstrably strong and skillful, Boadrius' successful career was built on undermining his opponent's confidence in their own capabilities. He donned a fierce and dominant mask to defeat his enemies before the battle even began. Boadrius, it can be said, used his imposing presence to undermine the confidence of his opponents because in his heart he did not feel as competent and powerful as his magnificent stature suggested of him. He was gifted with just enough to have a credible, even highly regarded career. He was not, however, gifted enough or disciplined enough to be the best, and he knew this. Now, I imagine that if Boadrius had worked out his frustration with the help of a good therapist, instead of on the battlefield terrifying and slaughtering young men, he would have been diagnosed with imposter syndrome, a psychological phenomenon where individuals doubt their accomplishments and have a persistent fear of being exposed as frauds. Boadrius lays on his therapist's sofa and recounts his moment of lost innocence. As a shining and precocious child, he enjoyed theater camp during his summer holidays. One year, his teacher, Pakula Anya, a woman every bit as old as his mother, saw something special in the young man and gave him singular attention. As a 13-year-old boy, Boadrius did not have the developmental skill to cope with an adult relationship, nor the courage to end it. And so was planted the seed of his imposter syndrome. Now, I've struggled with imposter syndrome for most of my life, and I believe that most of us, to one degree or another, feel it from time to time. We put on masks of confidence when high expectations are apparent, and we feel ill-equipped to satisfy them and lack the courage to refuse the request. I worked on this challenge for most of my adult life, and I found two solutions. Become an expert in the field where the expectations are laid and believe in myself every bit as much as others believe in me, or have the courage to say, no, this is not in my wheelhouse. Now, if our friend Boadrius had the same epitome in his lifetime, then at the moment that the king Tropia called him forward, one of two outcomes would be expected. He would either acknowledge that he was not up to the challenge and take a hard pass on battle in preference for a seaside vacation with a woman or man with whom he enjoys a healthy relationship based in mutual love and respect. Or, having put in the time and effort to become the best, he would have strode quietly, deliberately, and courageously onto the battlefield, and Achilles, recognizing he faced a well-adjusted, mindful, and expert opponent, would have trembled in fear.
We sit and we listen. We listen to music inspired by the pattern of a leaf. And outside, the trees and the leaves are bending in the wind, being swayed and pushed and pulled by a storm, by the weather, by this gray, beautiful day. But in here, it is quiet-ish. We are protected from the storm. The wind around us may rage, but in this place, we can be still. We can find the stillness and the quiet of this beloved place, these sheltering walls and these sheltering people. I invite you to find the way your body feels most at ease. Plant your feet or don't. Close your eyes or don't. Breathe deeply. That one is non-optional. As deeply as your body can. Find the quiet that can exist in the center of the storm. And join me in a time of prayer, of quiet, of peace. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding us. There is a love holding us. There is a love that holds all we love. There is a love that holds all we love. There is a love holding all we love. There's a love holding all. There is a love that holds us all. There is a love holding all. We invite this all-encompassing love into this space, into our hearts. We hold it, we make it stronger, we make it deep and wide enough to hold every part of us. The parts of us filled with joy, with Wynn, who is delighting in deeply loving friendship. The parts of us excited to see each other and sit with each other and be together. And it is a love that holds us in our hardest times. It is a love that is currently holding Randall Hudson and Sylvia Perisotto, as Sylvia had a small seizure and is currently in the ICU. She is not in distress, but they are working, and they invite you to hold her in your thoughts and prayers. There's a love holding us. There's a love holding this big, hurting world. We send it to everyone in places of conflict and fear, with Beth calling for ceasefire now, with everyone for whom the world is a scary place, and we are doing our best in it. To believe that the love is big enough to hold that pain as well is a hard task, but it is our work to do. So there is a love holding each and every person, and it exists because we make it so. May it be so. Amen.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to
Raise your hand if you like having your picture taken. Oh, bless you, hearty souls. I do not like having my picture taken, and I have all sorts of excellent reasons why I do not like having my picture taken, which if you have had the misfortune of trying to get me in a candid shot, you will have heard, and I apologize for that. Oh no, I want to be in the moment. I couldn't possibly stop and memorialize it. I'll remember. Or, Mom, no one wants to see our vacation pictures. Sorry about that, Mom. I have various justifications. I'm busy. Oh, I didn't brush my hair today. I don't like these shoes. The truth is, I do not like having my picture taken because I do not like looking at pictures of myself. And to not look at pictures of yourself, a really good starting point is to just not have them taken in the first place. I do not like looking at pictures of myself because I do not like what I see in pictures of myself. Now, I might describe that, sometimes I describe this like, oh, I'm not very photogenic. I'm not sure what that means exactly. But what it means to me when I say I do not like looking at pictures of myself is that when I look at a picture of myself, it does not look the way it looks in my head. I don't look like that, and if I do look like that, I might have a problem. In my head, everything is just a little different, a little smoother and a little easier, a little more even, just not a lot different. It's not like I don't recognize myself, but a little different. In my head, I look a little different. And so I spent 30-some odd years avoiding having my picture taken and then deciding that avoiding having your picture taken does kind of make you a bit of a jerk in some settings. So I had a compromise where I just didn't look at the pictures. You could take a picture of me as long as you didn't make me look at it. And this was working as a not excellent coping mechanism until the pandemic hit, and then we were all on Zoom all the time. And not only was I in Zoom meetings all the time, I was preaching on Zoom all the time, so I got to look at my face while I tried to be deep. And I did not care for that experience. Who here had the experience at the height of the pandemic of looking at Zoom and being like, I didn't realize I was that vain? Anyone? Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I need to stop touching that. And I experimented with the Zoom filters. Are y'all familiar with this? Where you can sort of smooth out the way you look. So you look both better, but also less like a human being. And isn't it interesting that better is less like a human being? And I experimented with those, and I experimented with just not looking whenever possible. I would spotlight someone else's picture to look at. Because pro tip, if you're feeling self-conscious, just look at someone else. It actually really helps. But slowly, week after week, after month, after year, I couldn't avoid looking at myself on Zoom all the time. And the funny thing is, it got a little bit easier. I don't know if I was doing some sort of very mild exposure therapy, but eventually, slowly, I started to recognize the person in the picture because I had to look at her so often. I was forced to reckon with my actual face, my actual person, not the slightly edited version that exists in my mind. There's a priest named Barbara Brown Taylor who has a suggestion for us all. She suggests that from time to time, we take off all of our clothes, sit in front of a full-length mirror, and pray. Now, for this group of Unitarian Universalists, I'm not sure which part would be more uncomfortable, the naked part or the prayer part. Pick whatever word feels good to you. Reverend Brown Taylor suggests that we sit in front of a mirror naked and pray and say, "This is my body. Here I am. This is my one body that my life has made. This is my soul's address." She imagines we look at our naked bodies with the tenderness with which we look at someone we love beyond measure. When I first read this suggestion, after the initial nope, 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 the internal laughter that I heard some of you have when I suggested that, I thought at the time I had a newborn. So I knew what she meant by looking with the tenderness of someone you love beyond measure. And I tried to imagine it, not do it, just imagine it. What would it be like to look at my body, all of my body, with that tenderness, with that conviction that every single part was perfect? Middling. There are parts, there are days, there are moments that we can love ourselves with that tenderness. But I wonder if maybe that's trying to run before we have walked. I wonder if maybe what I should be doing is imagining looking at my body, my face, all of me, the way Zoom made me look at it, just as what is. Just seeing it, accepting it for what it was. There's a concept called body neutrality. Anyone know what I'm talking about here? It's a response to body positivity. And body positivity is wonderful, the notion that we should embrace our bodies for what they are, but sometimes positivity is too hard to lift. Sometimes you just have to accept things as they are. What would it be like to sit naked in front of that mirror and look at my body and just say, this is what it is. This is who I am. These are my parts. Because sometimes tenderness and love is a little too much when things hurt, when it's harder to move than it used to be, when you don't look quite the way you want to. Sometimes positivity is too much, but what would it be if we were all forced to reckon with our bodies as they were? Or even wanted to reckon with our bodies and our spirits as they are. To look into that mirror and say, this is my soul's home and it is what it is. To do that for our bodies and to do that for our spirits. Research shows that people who practice body neutrality actually are better at taking care of their bodies. And I don't mean this is a great life hack where if you practice body neutrality, then you're going to lose weight. That is not what I mean. I mean those of us who accept our bodies for what they are better at taking care of them, at giving them water when they need it, at resting, at moving in ways that are good for us. When we accept ourselves as who we are, it's easier to engage with what is as opposed to who we think we should be. I spent years not looking at pictures because I didn't look the way I thought I should. What a waste of time. Are there things you don't do because you can't do them the way you think you're supposed to? Are there parts of yourself that you just choose not to look at because they're not perfect? because they don't look the way you think you're supposed to? What would it mean to embrace ourselves as we are, not as we imagine we are? I liked the way I looked in my head, the mask that I was wearing just for me. I liked the way I looked, but I couldn't let anyone else look at me for fear they might notice I didn't look like that. If we are who we are, if we can accept who we are, what places might we be able to show up for that we couldn't if we were busy pretending? May it be so. Amen.
Into the spiritual practice of generosity. Instead of passing the plate, you can electronically give by scanning the QR code on the back of your badge, or you can put cash or check donations into the donation envelope that you'll find in the back of the pew in front of you. Please write your name on it and mark offering plate or pledge, and then put it into the donation box beside the fountain in the atrium as you leave the service. Each week, half of our offering plate is shared with a nonprofit Good Neighbor organization recommended by our wonderful Social Justice Council. Thank you so much for practicing generosity with UUCB and with our good neighbors. Offerings of any amount are accepted with gratitude. The Good Neighbor for this month is Safe Organized Spaces of Richmond. SOS Richmond is housed and unhoused and formerly unhoused staff and allies working together to improve our neighborhoods. SOS Richmond is found in encampments, problematic hotspots, neighborhood events, neighborhood councils, community organizations, initiatives, and neighborhood improvement projects advocating for safety, stability, and security. And we are joined this month by O'Neill Fernandez, Programs Director of SOS. O'Neill?
How we all doing? How we all doing today? Sorry, I kind of lost my voice, but I just want to, when coming up here and I look at your guys' beautiful view, this something that comes into mind is all the camps that we hit. I can see are places I called home once, not the roofs, but the tents and the tarps. I can see all of it. So, it's touching to look out there, and now I get to, with all these beautiful faces, go from living in that tent to getting to talk to you guys. So, it's an awesome feeling, to sit up here. And so, I want everyone, I have two of my beautiful staff with us. I wanted everyone not to just always see me on the Zoom meetings and talking. I want everybody to experience our other faces of our staff. We do a peer-on-peer. Like I said, we all come out of encampments. We lived in the tents and the RVs. We try to support each other in the peer-on-peer support. It's easier for me to say what I've been through, reflecting from what you've been through, than me to look down on you and say, I know better than you. I can show you, I can say I felt that feeling in that cold, in that rain. We do a number of different things, and with all the support that everyone gives us, I just want to thank you previously before we even receive anything, just because, we can't do everything with just the little things we get from the city. We want to expand. We need vehicles. We're doing a wellness center so people can leave that rain and come in for a few hours, get a hot meal, get some resources. We can't do that with the little that's offered from the cities. It takes the village. You know, everyone combined. Like the hat I'm wearing, neighbors helping neighbors. We're all neighbors of all kinds. You know, the roof doesn't mean anything. We all are neighbors. I just want to thank everybody.
When we walk
Please join me in dedicating our offering. We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service. Thank you. If you are new to our church and you'd like to learn more about how to get connected, I welcome you to find me or any of the greeters at the welcoming table in the atrium after the service. And to find out what's happening in the life of our community, you can always check the news link on the homepage of our website, where you'll find our weekly email newsletter, The Week Ahead, which includes a list of activities, announcements, and contact information. This week, I'd especially like to lift up a charming pre-Valentine's event with music and desserts, love, songs, and chocolate on Saturday night, February 10th at 7 p.m. This year, the annual fundraiser will feature a focus on songs by George Gershwin, Harold Arlen, and the Great American Songbook, chocolate and other desserts, and champagne. On February 18th, we invite anyone who is new to the church to join us for our first monthly newcomer Q&A. Get a brief snapshot of what UUCB has to offer. It will be in the fireside room right after the service. And save the date for Reverend Marcus's installation ceremony. It will be on April 21st from 2:30 p.m. until 6 p.m., and childcare will be available. More details to come. So let's rise once more in body or spirit and join in singing our closing song, I Know This Rose Will Open. The words will be on the screen.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
I know this rose will open.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open. I know this rose will open.
Invite you to join hands as you are willing and able, or raise a hand to the universe, the spirit, as we remind ourselves that we come together because we need each other more than we know. We need each other when we would be brave, when we would take off our masks, those that we show the world, and those that exist only in the quiet of our own hearts. We need each other. And so here we are, waiting. Go out, be brave, make the good kind of trouble. Come back here, tell us all about it. We'll be waiting. Go in peace.